Stable and adequate power supply continue to elude us as a country, despite huge funds and efforts sunk into the sector. A promised 5,000 megawatts of electricity supply is proving elusive. The federal government has explained that it could not attain the promised target of 5,000 megawatts of electricity generation due to shortage of gas supply. Speaking after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja, the Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, said power generation remains around 4,000 megawatts because of problem of gas. Meanwhile, electricity workers under the umbrella of the National Union of Electricity Employees and the Senior Staff Association of Electricity and Allied Companies have agreed to suspend the industrial action they embarked upon on Wednesday for 2 weeks. This followed intervention of the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, in the crisis, bordering on promotion, stigmatization, refusal of market operators to fund payments of entitlement for disengaged staff of the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, as agreed in December 2019. BKO. Yesterday was so terrible.
Yes, for a lot of people. And even after they called off the strike, the ripple effect remained. Many communities were still in darkness because it's so easy to shut down. But once you shut down, how do you get everything back
to
on
normal
and working as it used to work? I'm really worried that everybody seems to think that the only language that the government understands is to go on strike. Essential services should never resort to strike at the slightest opportunity. What we have seen, their quarrel is even with the head of service. Yet you went ahead to throw the whole nation into darkness. I'm really, really ashamed of the workers who went to this extent. And in a way, you will not want to blame them, because when labor unions, when workers are complaining, government needs to look at the merits of their complaints and address those issues. Government should not always wait until somebody goes on strike. You get the point that I'm making? If I have a valid point, go ahead, talk to me, address the problem. Don't push workers to resort to strike before you find a way to engage them. Because this matter couldn't have just started yesterday and then led to a strike. The feeling that our people have is that government will never take you seriously until you go on strike. This is what we see. Whether they were head workers who went on strike, the demand had been there, was not addressed. They didn't make moves to call them before they now resorted to strike. Check. Often they will even send, because that's what the labor law says anyway, you can't suddenly go on strike. You have to let your employer know that this is the plan, so that the avenues for engagement are not blocked before people just suddenly see strike happening. So in this case, some of the staff are even contract staff. Some of them at one point had even worked for some of these companies, Gencos and the rest of them. They used to be staff, some of them used to be staff of the defunct PHCN. Now, they engaged them, they started working for TCN. It's not a bad idea if people have retired, but they still have the know-how, because that is a specialized sector. They still have the know-how. You found them useful, you then engage them as contract people. Well, for contract people now to be talking about promotion, you must promote us. Because that promotion has not come, I don't think that is enough to simply go and plunge the nation into darkness. Do you know can anyone quantify the losses that Nigeria recorded for the period that they put everyone in darkness? I believe that the decision that those guys took, given that these were people, a lot of them had even retired, were contract staff, I don't think it merited simply going on strike like that, given that it's essential services that we are talking about. The police, the army, the air traffic controllers, even the Constitution listed people on essential services.
The firefighters.
Yes. I mean, these are not people, even water board, for example, water board. They are not people who should just simply go on strike at the slightest opportunity. This is why I'm really disturbed about this one. It means that tomorrow we should not be surprised if soldiers just say they are going on strike.
Adekunle, let me have your take before we move into federal government's claims.
Honestly, it's something that is, honestly, I'm very, very angry.
A lot of Nigerians were.
Oh, believe me,
so much power.
I always believe that workers have right to embark on strike. But today, when we discuss Nigeria, the mess Nigeria has become, all of us made it what it is. We always, accuse the government, abuse them, criticize them. Fine, the government is not doing enough, and we don't have the best among us in public offices. Fine. But ordinary folks, we do a lot to harm and destroy our country because you have certain grievances. Ask Jide, ask me, ask anybody, wherever you work, there is no way you won't have one grievance on them. But we still do our work. You get my point? Mm-hmm. Believe me, part of the ineptitude that we are all suffering is that Nigeria has been turned to a country whereby we don't even punish crimes. We don't even punish failures. How can you go on strike and video yourself turning off gas turbines, power plants? Nigeria is a country, for God's sake. Oh. Believe me, the last time this happened, it was 1988 under General Ibrahim Babangida. 11 of them, they were arrested, they were prosecuted and convicted, sent to jail. Of course, later on, they were pardoned, but they went to jail. Mm-hmm. And that is governance. Today, nobody is even talking. Hey, they are happy, they are back, we are discussing with them, we are negotiating with them. This is crap.
This one,
because what they have done is economic sabotage, just like what those guys did in 1988. And we haven't heard from anybody that some people will be punished. Some months back, when NNPC did the unthinkable, they said petrol entered this and that. All throughout, no heads got rolled. And I said, what manner of country is this? We don't punish failures. We don't punish, crimes. What these fellows did is, just in plain terms, they've sabotaged. It's economic treason.
Honestly,
that's the word. It's economic treason. That's and if this government doesn't punish as usual, because it doesn't, it shows the ineptitude that is happening all over this place.
All right, let's. Federal government says the reason why has blamed shortage of gas supply, BKO. But I'm asking, why would gas be, remain an issue in the country that has the largest gas reserve in the continent?
That's talking about the fact that we can't meet the
megawatts.
5,000 megawatts threshold.
Who they set for themselves?
To even set 5,000 megawatts threshold for themselves is defeatist. Is where South Africa is generating on the average 42,000 megawatts, largely from coal. You see, God so blessed this country that we have everything. Solar, wind, hydro, coal. Coal was there now. Nobody talks about coal. It now looks like, coal is so bad. That's what South Africa relies on. South Africa even exports power to neighboring countries. just the way Egypt is now exporting power to countries of Europe. Egypt has more than enough to the extent that it's even exporting power to countries of Europe. That's an African country exporting electricity that we don't have to countries of Europe. No wonder one presidential candidate said he was going there to learn how to do it. People won't understand, but that's an African country exporting electricity to Europe. Not like our own that we're exporting to our neighbors.
African country.
So if we cannot solve the problem of gas, hydro accounts for just about 17.5% of our power plants. The bulk of the power plants are gas-fired. Egbin that we have here in Lagos is the largest gas-fired power plant in West Africa. But are we managing even what we have? Are we managing them very well? Every time, a lot of the time that you hear about system collapse and all that is usually because of gas constraints. Because if you don't have an optimum level of gas supply to the power plants, it will trigger a shutdown. You have the power plants, majority of them must be working at a point. If it gets to a point that only very few of them have access to gas, only very few of them are working, then you will have a system failure. So we've not solved the problem of getting gas supply to the power plants. Sometimes these bad boys in the creeks, they simply break gas pipelines, believing that it is crude or refined petrol, refined crude that is inside. But once you break a gas pipeline, you just wasted your time. You cannot pipe it. It's useless to you. You just pollute the atmosphere with it. So, and the gas, I heard the minister say, oh, the gas companies will not supply if you don't pay. Oh, it is because of your record. You have a record of owing people. Debt. If you owe them, how do they then survive?
Thank you. Please help me hold your thoughts while we take Benga from Abuja. Hello, Benga. Hello.
Yes, my name is Benga.
All right.
On the issue of Zamfara State Governor that is signed death sentence penalty for the bandits and kidnappers, I think it should not stop there. I'm suggesting that it should include both their logistic men, people that run errands for them. Because when you keep people in captivity for 1 month, 2 months, how do you feed them? Some of them are being taken by some doctors, by some nurses. So if they only sanction or penalize those kidnappers without all those people running errands for them, bandits and kidnapping will not end. But when they're able to cut those people off from them and nobody will run errands for them or carry some receipt for them, the bandits will be forced to come out because they can't keep their cards without feeding them.
Thank you, Benga.
So we should involve them in the penalty.
All right, Adekule, while the government continues to blame gas shortage, experts have said decayed infrastructure and investments, debt, like BKO said, and poor management as other factors. How huge of a factor is operational inefficiency?
You see, tell me what government, I'm talking about the Nigerian government, has handled very well. Even, just forget what you read in the papers. Look at what the quoted portion, what came out from the minister. So you just explained your inefficiency. You're saying because they will not supply, because then sometimes payment. Then what's government all about? Are you saying the federal government of Nigeria is unable to pay them? Why? Then you are not saying sometimes you plan, it's not. See, would you run your private enterprise like that? No, you need what you know what you need. Because you said it involves a lot of players. That's what, management is all about. So you need to factor in a lot of, things. Oh, this. And when you set in the right environment, then when there is poor management, poor leadership, inefficiency, ineptitude. That's what happens. How can you say because we had a firm agreement with, and you said, okay, you are working around it without giving specifics, because when you say you want, so what we are saying is grid collapse, we continue to have it until we're setting the right environment, the right management, because this thing is not rocket science. South Africa, less than 60 million people, they generate at 53,000 megawatts. And that's a country about 57, 58 million people. We are here, over 200 million people, Nigerians, and we are shamefully discussing five.
Could it be as a result of the population?
It's not because of this, because of we are
this. We exceeded this threshold before. During the Fashola years, his record was 5,313 megawatts. The former minister even got to 5,800 plus. I was there at the Ministry of Power on the day that we set another record in excess of 5,800. Now, if you are going down and we are saying we want to get to 5,000, we had 5,000 plus before. But unfortunately, if you hit 5,313, the next day, it could be less than even 4,000.
All right.
So we are not consistent. We've exceeded 5,000 in the past, but we are unable to stay there or even go up. We are going down.
And when we are talking about generation, believe me, it's different from distribution.
All right.
That's another thing entirely. There are times you hit 5,000. Are you able to distribute 5,000?
All right, let's quickly take Charles from Lagos. Charles, we apologize for keeping you waiting. Hello?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Gide, Oga Yusuf, and the lady there.
Good evening, sir.
For me, the problem with the power sector has to do with leadership. The problem is leadership. Then, and there's also need for us to practice, full federalism. Why are we concentrating power maybe only from Kainji or from other places? Let states empowered and bringing the private sector to take their own power. Yes, it's a money-making venture. Lagos tried this sometime in the past with error, and the federal government messed them up. Until we centralize this thing will never work.
All right. Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you very much, Charles. Now, gentlemen, according to
what he said was what we said earlier, that there are other energy sources. What are we doing to maximize
from this
those sources? If you go to Bauchi, for example, the kind of sun in the Jamari area, the kind of sun that will beat you. You are moving from Jigawa going into Bauchi, the Azari area, the kind of sun that will beat you. If they have it in India, they will be happy. In India, a whole airport is powered by solar. So we have other alternative sources that we are simply not doing enough. That is the thing. Why should we be talking about 5,000 megawatts? What is 5,000? When our own countries are not as big as us are doing way higher. We should set for ourselves a target that is, even at installed capacity, our installed capacity is above 10,000 megawatts. So why are we unable to even get close to the installed capacity?
All right, gentlemen, as I would like to know, has privatization served us better? Because for after 9 years, we seem to have deeper problems.
We need to invest more. The investment is not enough. Even the World Bank has told us that for 10 straight years, we have to keep investing. Now, we see, and the investment will cut across different energy sources. We have Mambila wasting away. Mambila will give us, even in the peak of the dry season, Mambila will give us in excess of 3,000 megawatts. Mambila alone. The size, the area where you have the dam and all that, is 6 times bigger than Lagos State. I've been there. And we're just wasting away. You can imagine if hydro from Mambila alone will give us about 3,500 megawatts. We are struggling to do 4,000 through largely from gas. So why haven't we, after about 30 years, we have not allowed that project to see the light of day? So
All right.
we are not ready to solve our problems. When we are ready, Nigeria will get better.
Adekunle.
Honestly, we need people who have ambitions, not these defeatists, people with defeatist minds. We're discussing 5,000, we should be discussing big ideas, big targets, big. I'm sorry, it's really ashamed.
Your angers are valid, actually. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Bikio, for coming on the program. Thank you, Mr. Adekunle. Serious situations.